What's going on? Brian Tong here, and I got a chance to head out to Disney Animation in Burbank and learn about all the new tech that helped make Frozen 2 look even better than the first one. The visuals are just amazing, so hold on to your butts because this is going to get a little nerdy, but there's also a whole lot of behind-the-scenes stuff in here, and it all starts with Hyperion. Now, this is Disney Animation's proprietary renderer. It's a software application that takes all the models, animations, textures, lighting, and other scene objects that help produce the final image that makes up these beautiful animated movies. It was first built during the making of Big Hero 6 in 2014, and since then, it's really evolved to be bigger in scope and scale in every way. Now, the Frozen 2 team talked about several tools that Disney Animation uses and are at the foundation of building these epic visuals and detailed environments for this movie. First up, Disney XGen is a tool that's used specifically for hair, fur, or ground cover in the Enchanted Forest and obviously in characters that allows it to say, hey, let's like put a point here and have either hair, fur, or grass grow from it. It's like placing a digital follicle on a surface and then allowing something to grow out of it, like hair on a head or moss on a rock. A lot of the changes that you see from the first Frozen to Frozen 2 start off with the characters like their hair. I mean, hair is everywhere, and you can see they've made big improvements with how different parts of the hairstyles now have more movement and react to the environment around them. You can really see some of these changes in characters' bangs and then also in Sven's coat of fur. Quicksilver is Disney's engine dedicated for hair simulation that was first used back in Moana. It helps kind of pose the hair in different shapes and positions that they want. Then Disney Animation developed an entirely new hair simulator called Beast that allows them to iterate quickly and see how the hair then reacts in different situations, like when Elsa is on land or in motion running, or when she's underwater, or when it's wet after she just came out of the water, to make sure it still looks like Elsa's hair instead of just a wet blanket. And fun fact, the average human head has 100,000 strands of hair. Elsa's hairstyle with the braid had 400,000 strands of hair, and Disney Animation needed that to give her braid that density and heft to look good on screen. Now, character wardrobe is just as involved. The team used Marvelous Designer, which is a 3D design tool for clothes and fabrics used in animated movies and video games. Each costume on each character had about 20 fittings before they got it just right. And more fun facts, Elsa's Snow Queen costume with the cape used 7.9 yards of fabric. And if you then took all the panels of fabric done for all the costumes on the movie and laid them out flat, it would cover 2.5 Olympic swimming pools if they were fit perfectly together. And that's a whole lot of digital cloth, but no waste. Now, the process and details of the costumes go down to the very stitches. It wasn't just a pattern painted on a cloth surface in Frozen 2. Each stitch for the embroidery patterns were made in 3D as a physical line that was then covered by a different thickness and colors of thread depending on the pattern. Fun facts, Anna has 82,000 embroidery stitches in her first dress that appears in the movie. And then how does Elsa shine bright like a diamond? Her Snow Queen costume has 274 hand-placed gems on it, each three-dimensional gems giving off its own sparkle. Now, Elsa, obviously the main character of this movie, and she had 9 major outfit and hair combinations in Frozen 2. The team says 20% of all character time for artists and animators was spent on Elsa. If you put that into perspective, all of the crowd work, which involves hundreds of characters, took about 30% of their time. Elsa alone was 20%. Now, the characters look great, but Frozen 2 took us out to the Enchanted Forest and new environments that we have never seen before in this franchise. Now, with a lush forest, you need trees. Bonsai is their tool for creating trees, bushes, and shrubs that allows them to control characteristics of them, like their height and their amount of branches that gives variety to them. A brand new tool called Droplet allows them to take a pattern. Let's just say it's a specific cluster of trees and rocks and ground cover. This group is then made to be a brush. Then they just take this brush and start painting down this grouping everywhere on a backdrop over and over. The team called it a game changer, but with Droplet, later on they can make minor changes to manipulate individual pieces of this brush. So maybe they rotate a tree or move a rock here and there after it's been all placed down, so it's not this repeating pattern that looks exactly the same in the movie. One brush could be one grouping of trees and bushes, while another brush would have a different arrangement, so the look and feel is very diverse, and they can just paint these assets down wherever they want to. Atmospheric fog was then added, and the Force was able to really have a variety of different looks. Now, the elementals in Frozen 2 are a big part of the story: earth, fire, wind, and water. Wind as a character, that was a brand new challenge for the team. So Disney created an in-house tool called Swoop to create the paths for the character representing wind named Gale. Now, one of the ways they animated her was to bring a team member into the Frozen world in VR and allow them to capture not only the shape of the path for Gale, but also the location and the timing for the swooping moves with the environment, and then make tweaks to it later in the post. They knew exactly where they wanted her to move because they were in this environment. And then you have leaves that were kind of carried by Gale to allow you to see this invisible character in action and her path. Also, in the Dark Sea, the elemental representing water is called the Knock. It's a horse made of water that moves underwater, but it's also a horse made of water that moves above water. It was a character that required a collaboration between the effects team, character animation, tech animation, and lighting. And the team said there was a lot of experimentation to nail down the look of their water elemental, and it took a year before they had the final look and feel of the Knock in place. You have a lot of water effects, reflections. It's like a physical moving body of water. It looked really sweet. We've also mentioned some of the tools from previous movies they've used that have continued to improve. Matterhorn is the studio's physics-based graphic simulator that was responsible for the snow in the original Frozen. There's also an epic scene where Elsa runs into this huge, like, churning dark sea that combined ice and water and multiple departments to make it all happen. Disney Animation's water effects engine is called Splash, but they primarily used Houdini. It's a 3D animation software application that's an industry standard and even incorporated similar tools that Disney had built themselves in the past. Now, Marlon West is the head of effects animation. He broke down this epic scene in depth, so I'm going to play the video footage that I have here so you can really get a feeling of all the work that goes into an epic 10-second scene like this.
So, like I said, this was actually one of the very first images of Frozen 2 that got out into the world, and there's Elsa in this very challenging environment, and I thought we came relatively close to what David painted. And I'm going to break down a little bit how we went about creating this. So the algorithms of actually making waves is actually been figured out a long time ago by some people a lot smarter than me. So what we were actually really kind of dealing with is aptitude and wavelength of the waves to really try to get the kind of performance we were looking for as part of the storytelling. We were really trying to get these waves that looked very, very menacing for Elsa, that were gonna, and it was going to be really daunting. And so not only is the altitude and the wavelength matter, but you can even kind of see the floor of the ocean and the steepness of the beach. So we even send this set kind of back to environments that actually kind of have it altered a little bit to actually get the kind of waves we were looking for. So here's another test. And you can see tiny little Elsa there. She gets swamped pretty easy. There. So again, here's some other examples. And to get what we were actually looking for, what Chris and Jen were actually looking for, these waves you can see are like 50 feet, which nobody in this room would kind of go running into like a 20-foot wave. But visually to kind of get what we were like looking for Elsa in the sequence, we really had to kind of amp it up. So again, here's that same shoreline. And so this is the simulation that Aaron Ramos did, who was our effects supervisor, was really kind of in charge of all the oceans in the film. And you could see that this is her simulation for the shoreline, which is actually separate from the ocean. So we had to stitch that kind of back in. And we also even had to do another kind of simulation, so this actually all the waves wouldn't kind of stay up here on the shoreline. So we're no strangers to oceans, and this is actually a scene that Aaron did for Moana. You can see this ocean has a little kind of like a kind of sassier little vibe to that other one. It's a lot smoother, and in Bora Bora and Tahiti, where the area where this is set, waves are breaking against like a barrier reef, like, hundreds of feet from shore. So the waves in this film are just lapping up to shore really kind of leisurely. And so the main challenge here was actually caustics in the water, being able to see it kind of water seeping into the sand and becoming wet. And this was more of what we were doing for Moana. And the ask was a lot different on this film. Because we were looking for something a little more menacing. And again, a 20-foot wave would be like pretty daunting. But you can see Elsa's like running downhill. So her point of view shot of that wave, when she's actually up on the hill, is she's looking down at it. So a 20-foot wave, they don't look so menacing. So that's one reason they got to be 40 to 50 feet, just because so it would actually look big enough to menace Elsa when she's looking down at it. So I want to show you kind of a breakdown of how we kind of work across department. You know, we don't really work in a linear fashion, which is actually kind of obvious from this kind of this presentation. But for Elsa to run across the ocean, we actually had to actually simulate the ocean before we could even give it to layout in some ways, but certainly before our brothers and sisters in character animation could animate. And for this to be believable, we have to get that ocean kind of bought off on 95 to kind of percent of what it's going to be before we can even give it to character animation so they can do their performance. And kind of knowing, you can see where Elsa kind of skids there a little bit, gets like a couple of snowflakes right in a row. That's in no small part informed by the fact that she's literally leaping over something that's actually really there. She's not pantomiming. Again, if you're going to have Elsa run across an ocean, you have to actually give it something really believable for her to work with. And if for some reason the camera changes, if her performance changes, if the need of this shot changes, then we have to go back and simulate all over again and then give character animation something else to work on. In the story sketch, this shot cut. It was actually a moving wipe, even throughout layout. As soon as she actually got caught up, it just went to black. But once we actually saw the simulation and Elsa's performance inside the wave, you can kind of see it gets kind of fades off in a way, and that's just one of those things. Once you're in production, you make these different changes, especially when you can see how cool she looks kind of churning around in there. And here's a couple of finished shots from the film of layout, character animation, tech anim, effects, lighting, all working together. Things will go so well for Elsa there.
It's just amazing all the work that goes into this. Tech has evolved so much over time, and there's so much work that goes into making a film like this, and a lot of talented people behind it that bring these truly incredible worlds and visuals to us. All right, so I hope you learned some new things here. There's just so much to take away from my visit at Disney Animation and the making of Frozen 2. Hey, if you like this video and you want to see more, give it that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, for all my latest videos for all things tech and culture. But Frozen 2, it's made $1 billion. The sixth film from Disney this year, a record for any studio. And it's an amazing film. It's worth watching. And it's kind of a little more mature and darker, but that's why I liked it a lot. So thanks so much for watching. I'm Brian Tong. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Peace.